Hey, you. Yeah, you. Have you ever been slapped with a series of labels by yourself or others that control how you act, think, believe, and live your life? Well, join us in Label Breaker, finding your identity in a world of labels. You will learn what your core labels are, how you can get rid of your unwanted labels, how you can change your labels, and how to create labels that you choose for yourself that will help you live in joy and the success that God has intended for you to live. So come on, let's be label breakers.
Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 5 Label Breaker Finding Your Identity in a World of Labels. Today we are going to read chapter 3 Being Defined by Others. The trouble with labels is that they are usually given to us by others. You will not label yourself the same way others do. The problem begins when you have been given a label that is not true to you, your core labels, or your core beliefs, but you leave that label there where you and everyone else can see it. Then you begin to believe it, and eventually you let it define you. You believe them and assimilate them into yourself, making them visible to you and those around you. They begin to take form in your appearance, attitude, and beliefs. I have already shared with you a bit about how I let the label of fat be applied to me as a young girl, and it became a life-defining label for me. I was a very active, athletic tomboy, and as I got ready to enter puberty, I became a little chubby. Others started teasing me and calling me fatty, chubby, and other fun names. Some of it was done in good humor, but even applied in jest or teasing, it was attaching a painful label to me. I became obsessed with the fat label until it consumed my every thought. I went to bed berating myself for eating unhealthy foods or not exercising enough that day. I dreamed of becoming skinny and beautiful over summer breaks so that no one would recognize me when I came back to school. If they didn't recognize me, then I could finally be the me that I wanted to be. Funny, pretty, sociable, outgoing, and the life of the party. I knew the calorie count of everything edible, even gum. I went through bulimic phases for years. At one point, it lasted 6 months straight, until my throat was raw and hurting, and I realized I wasn't accomplishing anything but hurting myself more. The fat label and my obsession with it literally became my God, my idol, always on my mind, always consuming me, and always judging me. I dieted from the age of 10 years old. I still find old food journals that I've kept for over 30 years because I was unable to throw them away. My entries consisted of food and calorie count for the day, what exercise I did, and pleading with God to please help me to lose weight. Because of this experience, you can imagine that I have strong feelings about extreme diets for young children. I sincerely believe that the extreme calorie restriction, unhealthy diet fads, and a complete obsession with dieting, fasting, radical exercise, and bulimia ruined my metabolism and my body's natural abilities to properly use food. These are my personal conclusions, based on a lifetime of study, natural homeopathic and medical advice and treatments. I also know with complete certainty that it ruined my self-esteem for multiple decades. As I look back at pictures of my younger self through a healthier lens, I realize that I did not have to let this label become a truth for me. I now have 3 daughters who have similar body types to mine. They all went through a small phase of what could be considered chubby, yet I allowed them to come through that phase naturally, without radical diets and exercise tortures. Today, they are beautiful, healthy, normal-weight adults. I do not and did not let people choose to call them fat or chubby. I promote a positive mindset, healthy food choices, and exercise that is fun and enjoyable, in the hope that they will never have to deal with this deliberating label in the same way as I have. This happens all too often with the labels that we allow others to define us with. We begin to believe them, even if they may have been untrue or had only a small amount of truth to them at the time they were applied. These types of labels, the ones that may have a tiny bit of truth in them, are unfortunately the ones that grow and fester, taking on a life of their own. And then sadly, they do eventually become a very real, life-defining truth for us, even though we may not have believed them or even felt they were true for us at the time. I listened to that ugly and daunting fat label, and I believed it. Not only did I listen to it and let others call me it, I called myself fat and told myself that no one would like me because of it. I let it keep me from living my life. It controlled my actions, my voice, my heart, and my soul. I let it keep me from being the true person I really was on the inside. It became a core belief for me, which I essentially believed was the same as a core label. Even though the label could have been quickly discarded if I had responded in a healthy manner, instead I let this label of fat that had a teeny bit of truth become a defining truth for me. I chose to believe it and feed it, pun intended, through 4 pregnancies, thyroid disorders, and other health issues. Add to that a negative mindset and a horrible self-image, and I did eventually become morbidly obese. Please understand that I did not resign myself to this label without a fight. I tried virtually every diet out there, exercised for hours a day, prayed, fasted, and pleaded with God to help me. Many times, you will fight your label you think with all you have, but it still seems to win. Remember this: your mind is your biggest ally or your greatest foe. In my mind, I was telling myself that I was worthless, lazy, ugly, disgusting, disappointing, and embarrassing, not worthy of my husband or anyone else's love. Please listen here as I say this. I was primarily the one putting these thoughts into my mind. My mind knew this was not how my Creator saw me, for I was taught that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. But my heart did not believe it. I rejected the words of my Creator and instead let my fat label become my God, consuming my thoughts, actions, and beliefs. This label led to other labels like fear, disappointment, regret, and depression. These labels did not only affect me, but all those I loved and came in contact with on a daily basis. It is when you stop and take a focused effort to learn the true identity of your Creator, when you finally start to believe the words He says about you, that you can start to live in your true identity. Let's take a moment and look at the identity of your Father and yours through Him. In Genesis 1:26 it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.' You were made in the very likeness, identity of God. He desires an intimate relationship with you. You are defined by God. Jeremiah 1:5 states, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." And Ephesians 1:4-6 says, "And he chose us to be his very own, joining us to himself, even before he laid the foundation of the universe." Because of his great love, he ordained us so that we would be seen as holy in his eyes, with a sustained innocence. For it was always in his perfect plan to adopt us as his delightful children through our union with Jesus, the Anointed One, so that his tremendous love that cascades over us would glorify his grace for the same love he has for his beloved one, Jesus. He has for us. And this unfolding plan brings him great pleasure. He knew you and chose you to live with him and in him, and he in you, before he laid the foundations of the earth. That is a love that is almost incomprehensible. So great is his love. 1 John 4:18-19. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment. And whoever fears has not been perfected in love. We love because he first loved us. Two states of being. Fear or love. You cannot live in both at the same time. Your Father is love, so there can be no fear involved in him loving you, and should be none in you loving him. When I truly began to believe these truths about the identity of my Father and my identity in him, that is when I realized I no longer had to live with these labels and the pain they were causing me and my loved ones. At times we will listen to, believe, and allow false labels to become a part of our core beliefs, and they will grow to the point of affecting us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But don't despair. You can get rid of these labels. You do not have to believe them or allow them to have power over you. They will most likely not be easy or painless to remove. They may even be deliberating, bringing you to a point of complete despair before you can remove them. But you can remove them. We are going to go through a process called the 12 Acts in the second half of this book that will help in bringing recognition and healing to your labels. These actions, along with prayer and reflection on whose and who you are in him, will provide you with hope, strength, and joy in removing these hurtful labels. That is not to say that once they are removed, they will not leave lasting effects on your life. It does mean that they no longer have to have any control over you or define you in a negative way. Removing them will give you a love, understanding, and compassion for others having these same labels or similar ones. You will be empowered to help and encourage others as they remove their own labels. In many people's eyes, I may still be considered fat. I'm still bigger than I would like to be and still working on becoming a healthier version of me. But I can finally say that I do not let this label define or control my life any longer. It has been removed from my heart. and I am free. This can be true for you also. You do not have to let a label define you. Even if others see it as a truth, it is what you choose to believe in your heart, your true identity from God, that will define you. Remember what your Father says about you. Remember what He says about Himself. Remember, there is no fear in love. Your Father loves you with a love that began before time. If your Creator loves you more than anything He has ever created, then you can love yourself the same way. In this great love, you are the one who has the power to change your labels and remove them. See you in the next episode.